Good evening. The Lawrence Alliance for Education Board meeting for March 13th will now come to order. The time is 6:08. Maria, would you please take attendance?
Yes. Dr. Dolores Calaf. She's muted. Edgar de Leon.
He's absent.
Arlene Garcia.
Present.
Juana Matias.
Present.
Maria Muller.
Present.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Present. Maria, the mayor's here.
Mayor Brian de Peña.
All right, would we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hi, Mia, how are you?
Hello, Power.
All right, we will begin with public participation. The board welcomes public comment at this time. We will call people in the order they signed up. As you begin, please state your name and address for the record. Each person is permitted to speak for no more than 2 minutes. A bell will ring when you have 30 seconds remaining, and again at the end of the 2 minutes. I ask that you please respect this limit. Profanity will not be tolerated. If used, we will turn off the microphone, and the person will be asked to leave the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone that during public comment, the board is in a listening mode, and as such, board members do not respond to comments. Written public comments may be sent by email to lea@lawrence.k12.ma.us no later than 2 o'clock the afternoon of our meeting. Our first speaker is Mr. Mali.
Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Good evening, honorable members. We, the Laurentian, proud to support our teachers' union. The great Nelson Mandela said, education indeed the most powerful weapon to change the world. This change only possible if we support our teachers' union. Lawrence teachers, you are number one. Laurentian are the best example of support the teachers' union. Ben Franklin said, any investment in education has 1,000 return. We demand the best wages for our teachers, our paraprofessional employees and cafeteria workers. The genius Horace Mann created public education in this nation said, indeed, the most powerful education is the most powerful social equalizer. The best future for our children is only possible if we support our teachers' union. Future of this great nation depend on our support of our teachers. Lawrence teachers, thank you for offering the best education. Our children of the Lawrence going the most prestigious universities in the nation, the best prosperous future because of the best education. Whereas in this great nation, when the teachers go on strike, the whole nation goes on strike. Lawrence always strong. Lawrence always unite. Lawrence teachers, thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your sacrifices. Lawrence Public School now on the road to become the best public school in the nation. Lawrence teachers, you are number one.
Thank you, Mr. Mali. Ismail Rondon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Ismael Rondon, 6 Hanley Street, Lawrence, Massachusetts. I'm going to speak in Spanish, and Ms. Jenny is going to translate for me. Los padres de las escuelas públicas que me acompañan, y voy a hablar en nombre de ellos.
I'm going to speak in behalf of the Lawrence Public Schools parents that are here.
estamos aquí como una muestra de apoyo a los trabajos del LAE Board en beneficio de nuestros estudiantes.
We are here to support the LAE Board member work for our students.
Y también a los trabajos del liderazgo de las escuelas públicas. Nosotros queremos apoyar cualquier iniciativa que vaya en beneficio de todos nuestros estudiantes de las escuelas públicas.
And also the leadership members of the Lawrence Public Schools, we would like to support any initiative that is to support the students for our schools.
Así que reiteramos, nuestra presencia hoy aquí debe tomarse como una demostración de interés y de apoyo a los trabajos que ustedes hagan en beneficio de todos nuestros estudiantes.
And to reiterate, our presence here is to be seen as support and in reference to all the initiatives that is being taken for our students.
Y no duden en contar con nuestro apoyo, reitero, y en contactarnos si desean nuestra participación en cualquier proyecto. Estamos dispuestos, los padres de las escuelas públicas, a participar en cualquier proyecto que vaya en beneficio de nuestros estudiantes.
And do not hesitate to contact us if you need any support or participation on our behalf with anything that needs our support. We are willing and able to help and assist.
Gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Rondon. That concludes our public participation for this evening. Under my report tonight, representatives from ALMA, the ALMA group, are to be here to give us an update on the superintendent's search. Sylvia has a time conflict, and she's going to be a little bit late. So as a result, we're going to continue with the agenda and stop when they sign on. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. I would like a motion to approve the minutes of our February 14th meeting.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Mayor Brian De Peña,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Continuing, I would like a motion to approve the minutes of our February 21st executive session meeting.
So
Mo-
moved. Second.
Second? Thank you. Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Mayor Brian De Peña,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. And at this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Superintendent Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening to all the folks from the public and our board members for joining us tonight. To start off the superintendent's report tonight, we are going to ask the board to take a vote on school choice participation. Mass General Law, Chapter 76, Section 12B, allows families to enroll their students in communities other than the ones that they reside in. Local governing boards, school committees, or in our case, the LAE Board, are allowed to make decisions on school choice. Every school district across the Commonwealth has to submit their decision to DESE by June. If not, we are considered to be participating in school choice. So I did want to make a recommendation to the board tonight. The district's recommendation is to not participate in school choice. That is to not allow students from other communities to have their children enrolled in the Lawrence Public Schools. And the simple reason is just capacity of space. We are reaching close to 14,000 students enrolled. And that is why we have the two new school building projects underway. That is the reason why we are renting various facilities across the district, including where the RISE program is located, where HLC, LFPA, all of our elementary are located. So for that reason, I am recommending to the board to vote yes to approve our recommendation to not participate in school choice. And I'll take any questions, Madam Chair, if any board members have any questions on our recommendation.
Any questions at this time?
And again, a yes vote is just to accept the district's recommendation to not participate in school choice.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation. Sorry. I'll entertain a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation not to participate in school choice for the school year 2024-25.
So
Do I have a
moved.
motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, Maria, would you please call the roll?
Joshua Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Mayor Brian De Peña,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes, the motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on the superintendent's report, we are going to ask the board to approve us to send a request to the Commissioner of Education for a waiver of the extraordinary maintenance limits related to concrete replacement and ADA compliance at the Frost School Complex. This project we are projecting to be approximately $600,000. The scope of the work over at the Frost includes replacing the concrete sidewalks on Hamlet Street, the pedestrian entrance, and replacement of concrete stairs in the wheelchair ramp entrance at the main, wheelchair ramp access, at the main entrance. And again, this request of a waiver for extraordinary maintenance, we are projecting to be approximately $600,000. We have identified funding to be used, and we would be seeking a vote to approve this, this action to send this waiver to the Commissioner's office for approval.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the Frost School paving project.
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor.
Seconded.
Maria,
Second.
please, any discussion? Hearing none, Maria, please call the roll.
Joshua Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Mayor Brian De Peña,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that, and we believe it's going to be an excellent project for the Frost School community. At this time, we're going to move on to our Student Opportunities Act, and we are going to ask for some feedback from the board tonight. We're going to turn it over at this point to Dr. Melissa Spash, our Deputy Superintendent, and Ms. Glenice Sanchez, our Executive Director for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, to kind of walk us through our SOA2 update, and also to field any questions that board members may have. So, Dr. Spash?
Great. Good evening. Good to see everyone. This is exciting. It's not every day you get to present a plan on almost $50 million. So this is a first for me. And I think as you hear the proposal, which is really intended to explain the evidence-based programs and sort of the directional pieces of where we built this budget. And there is a vote associated with this tonight. DESE does require to put it in front of boards and to get a vote from the board on the direction that we're taking. So we're excited to show you what we've done. These are the pieces of the agenda. We'll first go through, as you know, we had a 3-year cycle already, which we're calling Cycle 1, the first 3 years of SOA. That was $30.5 million that we already absorbed. We'll then move in and talk about Cycle 2 and how we really did a deep engagement of the community to get their voice, students, staff, families, community, through focus groups as well as through a survey. Glenice will talk about that. And then we'll present the proposal we have for the second round of SOA funding. And we'll give you a small update because this isn't even due until April, so we'll give those dates to you. So the first section is kind of how we went from Cycle 1 to Cycle 2. These are the basics, in case it's helpful. I have it in front of me here because that's far away. The first piece is it's required by DESE that every different initiative that we do is tied to DESE's evidence-based programs. So these are things in the research, and they synthesize a list of them for us. And they're targeted at reducing these persistent disparities, and they're intended to be around a 3-year cycle of work. They're based on data analysis, so we did a data analysis that we have in a narrative that we'll provide to you after this meeting. It's due on April 1st. And then the evidence-based programs align with DESE's strategic objectives. And essentially, these are aimed at English language learners, students with disabilities, and low-income students. That's the general, that's not specific to Lawrence, that's the SOA planning. Those are the basics. This is a graphic that was created and included in the survey that sort of shows the flow of what these bucketed programs are. So you see the first 4 are co-teaching, social emotional learning, curriculum and instruction, and then facilities. In the next round of SOA, facilities isn't in there. It's not considered part of the funding options. That's important to note. We're now at this place on the far right where we engage the community on the new round which somewhat includes those first 3, but not facilities. That's the main point I wanted to take away here. And this is a process overview where we explain a little bit about how we went about this. The first cycle was $30.5 million. We went back and looked at what we did spend and kind of right-sized it to where we are now. So for instance, if we had co-teachers for special education, they're still working here. So those expenses from the first round would continue into the second. We did that, then we did a huge engagement with the community, and then we landed on our next plan, which adds another roughly $20 million to our funding. So we're a total of $49.5 million. As a refresher, this is a sheet I think you've seen before. I know Bessie has seen it before as well. This is where those dollars from the first round of SOA were spent, what we're calling Cycle 1. Co-teaching, we invested $4.7 million, 50 FTEs. That was for multilingual learner co-teaching as well as special education co-teaching. Social emotional learning, there were 80 FTEs there, $7.2 million. In curriculum and instruction, there was $14 million, and in facilities, $4.6 million. That's how the prior plan, that was the last 3 years, rolled out. So Glenyce is going to talk a little bit about our engagement efforts with the community, and then we'll move on to the second round of the proposal.
Hi, good evening, members of the board. So I'll talk to you a little bit about how we engage the community around how do we prioritize SOA funding. So if you go to the next slide, so the intention was to engage community members, community partners, parents, caregivers, school-based staff, including teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, central office as well, and students and alumni. So to get a sense of what the priorities will be, you'll see on your right a flyer that you probably saw on social media, asking folks to complete a survey. So the survey instrument was our main way to get feedback from the community. It was shared both in English and Spanish. And the survey window was from February 2nd to February 18th, right before the February break. So it was a 5-question survey with 10 choices. So those 10 choices were about what other priorities we should include. So we are making assumptions about what we want to continue from SOA 1, and we open it up for community to tell us what else to include as part of SOA 2. So we got 1,229 responses in that 2-week window, and noting that 414 of those were submitted in Spanish, and 584 of the surveys had open-ended responses, meaning that people wrote ideas and priorities that they wanted to see, which is pretty robust for a survey to have that many open-ended responses. We also did some outreach and awareness, so discussing what SOA funding was and creating some capacity for families and for students to know in the first place what SOA is for and how districts are supposed to use it. So We created awareness through regular meetings that were scheduled during that time frame in February, including conversations with the LPAC board, with CPAC, and also use the superintendent coffee hours to let people know that they could complete the survey. In addition, we also conducted focus groups, especially in conversation with students. So we met with high school students at upper school and also Unidos. So conversations with students that are newcomers and that added some perspective into what they need and what ideas they had to use the funding. So to give you a sense of who responded the survey, so about 46% of the survey respondents identify as parents or caregivers, and 32% identify as teachers. So primarily, it were parents and teachers responded to the survey. It's really small to see, but the other choices were, are you a teacher, are you a central office staff, are you a student, a community partner, and so on. And in terms of demographics, 65% of the respondents identify as Latinx. So you can see that a lot of our Latinx parents responded to the survey, and it was a pretty strong set of data. And in terms of what did they say? So in terms of the 10 choices they had, the top 3 were for all participants. So this is everyone that completed the survey, is that their top 5 programs were we need more social services to support students' social, emotional, and physical health, more enrichment opportunities, more academic support programs, increasing support for multilingual learners, and increasing students' college and career opportunities. So this data is very similar to the data you saw in terms of the superintendent search when people ask about what's going well, what areas of improvement do you identify. In the 5-question survey, we then asked people from your top 5, tell us what is like your top 1. If you have to choose one thing, what would be the one thing? So if you go to the next slide, the top 3 programs for all participants were, again, more support for social emotional health, more enrichment opportunities, and additional academic support programs. And if you slice the data by parents, by teachers, it's very similar what the top 1 or 2. And for parents, it was more enrichment opportunities, other things that will enhance outcomes for students. And our last slide here is just choosing some of the voices from the open-ended responses. So you could, I'm not sure if you can read from there, but I'll read one. So I'll read number 2. I believe the multilingual support is most important because we have so many students who are no longer newcomers, but still require and thrive with additional support. I would like to see those students learn to be literate in both languages. So that participant really highlighted the importance of supports for multilingual learners. And just like that, I coded every single one of the open-ended responses of what people wanted to see in the second cycle of SOA. So the next thing you will see is how we translated some of the engagement and the data analysis into a proposal for cycle 2.
So this, go ahead, Dave, thank you. This is using that same chart, but the categories are a little different because DESE gave us new categories this year. But all of our things from cycle 1 we can fit into these categories. The first one is systems of support. From the first round of SOA, we'd put all the SEL work into that category. So that's around physical and mental health, wellness, MTSS or multi-tiered systems of support, and partnerships with families. That's about $18 million, and again includes SEL, culturally sustaining pedagogy initiatives from SOA Cycle 1. For the second strategic objective, deeper learning, this includes high quality instructional materials, post-secondary preparation, which the high school built a budget for that, And programming for at-risk learners, that's about $22 million. We put the tilde or the about because we're still in that planning process and the narrative isn't due until April 1. But those are very close numbers. Includes an expanded co-teaching and curriculum implementation of initiatives from the first round of SOA 1. And then a new category that we're adding in, which really, we've been doing a lot of this work under some grants before, but we're solidifying it into its own Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, mainly in here, is diverse workforce. Again, the pipeline of diverse educators, staff retention, and continuous professional learning, that's about $9 million. In addition to the DEIB office and those partnerships, we've added those market salary adjustments, some of which you'll consider later on today in executive session, and some that you voted on in February for the LTU. This is a lot on this chart, but we wanted to be very transparent about the different types of projects. If you can imagine, this is a large budget. We get a lot of SOA money. And so some districts might choose only one of these evidence-based programs. We have a smattering across all of them, which is, I think, a powerful and appropriate plan. So here you can see, I'm going to kind of go through it just so that you know the basics that are in there. For the first objective, or systems of support, continuing those social, emotional, and physical health supports, so that still has an increase in number of counselors. In BCBA's an expansion of those behavior intervention teams that we've been using, as well as adopting additional SEL curriculum. There's an expansion of tiered academic supports, so increased paraprofessionals, as well as interventionists, a lot. All of our old ESSER positions, which were of interventionists, we moved. We did not remove those after the 2 years that after ESSER ended. We put them on SOA. We did not want to interrupt the good intervention our kids are getting. And then some adaptive computer-based intervention curricula. We have part of this plan on the family resource side is to add a parent liaison or a family engagement specialist to every single school with some particular focus on homeless and newcomer specialists. There's an addition of a parent academy and a creation of an inclusion team for special education across all schools, and then a revamped system of school-based translation and interpretation support. So that's on the systems of support. On deeper learning, we continue. This is not, this is stuff that was in the prior SOA, but the purchasing of high-quality curricular materials, we've made major headway here, so we'll continue that in this plan. We're launching and expanding a bilingual education program. That will be at the Arlington Elementary next year. We have in there an expansion of our SLIFE and kind of solidifying our SLIFE programming, so students with limited or interrupted education supports who need a very specific program. Expanding multilingual learner and SPED co-teaching programs, which again, we're in the first SOA. We put Acceleration Academy to make sure that stays protected in this next plan, as well as we heard when we looked at the surveys, one of the biggest, I'd say, like the gap analysis we did between the plan that we had evolved and then what the parents were saying, students were saying, was this need for more programming after school or enrichment programming. So we had the arts department make about $1 million plan for this budget, and then we're going to give an allocation to every single school to build a school-based program based on their own parent and student and teacher needs. So it's very specific to each school, and we put a significant allocation there based on the input from families and students and staff. There's, of course, additional professional development. We already started, I'm really proud of the early literacy work that you're going to hear about later on today. We continue that in this plan, as well as programs around our multilingual learners, students with disabilities, and family engagement. We have a piece in here about integrating early college coursework into the innovation pathways and paid student internships, and then some robust expenditure around college and career planning experiences. So you can hear, it's a lot of things in here and just building out many new programs and continuing some of the other ones that we had from SOA 1. In terms of diverse workforce, many partnerships with higher education institutions to develop and enhance pathways to intentionally attract and retain. Many of our staff can use these programs to get additional licensure, to get additional credential, to get additional degrees. Retention includes some tuition assistance and licensure support, as well as paid fellowships. Pathways for professional growth and leadership. I mentioned the salary adjustments, those are in this as well. And then additional professional development on culturally responsive practices. So there's a lot in there, but we wanted to give you that detail. In terms of a process update, and this is really the last slide, So we've done the community and school engagement. Our leadership team has taken a look at this plan and has approved it. We took into account community voice, as you know, and you heard Glenny's talk about, but also our capacity to mobilize those initiatives effectively. We had to know that we could operationalize the money that we were setting aside for SOA, and we made sure they were tied to evidence-based programs. As I mentioned, while the vote is required by the board this month, it's not due until April 1st. And there'll be a detailed summary of SOA in the budgeting, which you'll be able to see the detailed line items there. That's not the purpose of tonight's meeting, although I can tell you one is fully in development, and the basis is there for all of these monies. That's it, and we assume you might have some questions. So we'll stop there and take some questions.
Any questions at this time? Thank you, Melissa.
I guess
Lorna?
I'll start for us. Thank you so much for the presentation. Really appreciate the thought and effort that's been put into, ensuring that we're going to leverage these dollars in ways that are going to deliver outputs for our students. My question is, when you're investing in these 3 objectives, do we have any data that in the past 2-3 years, these objectives and these investments have led to student outcomes or improved our school district as a whole? And what does that look like? I assume we must, because we're reinvesting in a lot of these strategies, but would love to get some context.
I'll touch upon it a little, I'll touch a bit at it, a little bit briefly, but with the synthesis of the glows and grows, okay? And then there's a required section 2 in the narrative, which is a detailed narrative. We'll give a detailed explanation with all the numbers. Dave, can you please go to the first page of the appendix? We anticipated this question. And this is the synthesis. It's all the way at the end. All the way, arrow. All the way to the end. You'll see a green slide that says appendix, and it'll be the next sheet after that. Keep going. There, next one. That's it. So from the data analysis that we did to inform this plan, the pluses are kind of some glows. There's an increased graduation rate for our multilingual learners and students with disabilities in the data that we looked at the last 3 years or so. Also, we've decreased chronic absenteeism. And we have some stable demographics. Those aren't changing significantly. On the Delta side, performance gaps continue to exist, although we have narrowed them. And in general, we're performing better in ELA than in math, which I think you heard in Kristen Sullivan's presentation on MCAS a few months ago. And then we have an increasing number of recent arrivals for multilingual learners or those who have a lower English proficiency level. So there's definite need to focus on our multilingual students. So that's a synthesis. And again, there's several pages in the report.
That's helpful. And so I love seeing the bilingual education program launch. Why just Arlington? Is that where we're seeing the influx of bilingual students?
Yep, great question. So that the Arlington tends to have our highest numbers of multilingual students in general. And we felt like it was just a good site to launch this from. The reason it's really one school, it's a deep investment kind of in time and planning. We spent the last year planning it, working with an organization called MABE. And, it starts with kindergarten, the next year they do K and 1, the next year they do K, 1, 2, so it sort of rolls out over time and they take more kids. So those kids don't just stop after kindergarten, they move right to the next grade. As you can imagine, you need to have licensure with teachers and the skill set and the training for the teachers who are going to run this program. So it is a bit of a long-term plan, but one we are extremely eager to do and to continue growing.
I think, to follow up on that, I was a bilingual ed teacher 30 years ago. But at the Arlington complex, out of the 1,200 students, there are almost 700 multilingual students there. We did want to start it at one of our larger neighborhood schools so we could make sure that we attract enough interest from families because families need to opt into this. We can't make it obligatory for some families. So we're going to start it off over there. We believe in the future, 2-3 years down the line, should be amplified across the district in many places. Because I think once you start running a program like this that does educate students and have them fully function at bilingual by 5th or 6th grade, that's a huge value, and we feel like the community is also going to embrace that as well. So we see multilingualism as an asset, and we want to keep amplifying that across the district. Again, as Melissa said, licensure issues, curricular issues. You have to pick appropriate curriculum in the second language, in this case Spanish, that we're working on along with English, to make sure that that's high quality as well. So we want to make sure that we go slow to go fast on this. We want to build a good model that can be amplified in other areas across the city.
And when you guys say bilingual education, it's like the entire curriculum is bilingual?
It's delivered in both languages.
In both languages. That's great. Thank you. I have other questions, but I'll yield the floor to my colleagues to give them an opportunity.
And we have one more comment on that.
So to your first question, maybe if we can go back a couple slides back, in terms of like why these strategies and not others. So just wanted to clarify one more, I think one or two more. Yes, that one. So these objectives, so I think what is unique about SOA is that we get guidance from DESE in terms of what programs and we can choose. So they provided us with 21 EVPs or evidence-based programs. So a lot of those three objectives come right from the guidance from DESE, and we have investments in each one of the objectives. Just wanted to clarify that these are not LPS. We didn't come up with those, like that DESE gave us the guidance. So these are the three objectives that are based on evidence, based on research, and also from the experiences for our students in our Commonwealth. So I think in your packet, you can see in the SOA basics slide that there is a link to understand more what those evidence-based programs are. And from SOA 1, they change a little bit, but these are the DESE guidance.
Thank you.
Yeah, the big change is that we can't do anything facilities related with this money. That's the one major change.
I love that you guys are putting in this teacher salaries and paraprofessionals. Is there like a detailed budget that shows what projections could look like in the next iteration of this rollout?
You want me to go?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that in executive session. We feel like we're going to be able to fund those salary increments without affecting any other type of operational or student service in the future. And we feel like the more staff that we retain, the more talented folks that we attract, obviously going to be great things for our students as well. So it's going to be money well invested in our belief.
Okay, I look forward to flashing that out with you in executive session. And then, all of these investments, they're sound, they're evidence-based. And I know as a district that is in receivership, we need to get our core elements in place. But how are we thinking about educating our students for the future? Like we know tech and the sciences, STEM is really important. Are we thinking about how we're leveraging our SOA dollars in a way that are positioning our students for workforce opportunities down the line that could lead to great economic growth and wealth building?
That's a huge question. I think that the best way to kind of center that answer would be in the plan that the high school has presented, and we could certainly have them come and explain that in greater detail. They'd probably be better equipped to do that. But in this plan, they have a lot of focus on early college coursework as well as pathways, advisories, and development of advisories to focus on that. So what I'm looking at here is kind of their line item budget. They would be the ones who could be able to really explain their vision for their programming. But there is an allocation in there to ensure that they're focusing on pathways, college-bound, but also job-bound, tech-bound, et cetera.
I think they have different iterations of what kind of services that they're going to offer through their plan. Abbott has a different plan than perhaps Unidos does versus the upper school as well. I think, again, the best thing that we can do for our students is to make sure that they are fully literate and they have great numeracy skills. And that's why we're focusing on many of those things with the SOA money, and at the same time, at the high school level, focusing on early college. Furthering our partnership with Greater Lawrence Tech to send students perhaps during the day. We've initiated discussions with Superintendent Lavoie last year. He would be interested in expanding our After Dark program if we can, again, based on space and staffing limitations that they have over at GLTS. But, we agree. Anything we can do as far as college readiness or career readiness is going to benefit our students long-term. I think the salary increments are going to help us. We're referring to STEM. We've just had a very hard time attracting STEM teachers, especially at the high school level, just based on the disparity between what they can earn in the private sector and what they can earn as a public employee. So I think that's a first step for us to be able to attract STEM teachers at the high school level. And again, to have something that I particularly struggled with at the high school level. I remember one year I lost 5 physics teachers when I was in 10th grade, and trying to hire, 5 new teachers out of 6 to teach a complicated subject as physics is very challenging. And we want to make sure that we find those talented folks in the STEM field, but then we also retain them. I think that'll be a huge step for us as far as prepping folks in computer science and the STEM fields. And again, we'd be glad to listen to Victor and Kevin and Melissa and Dr. Reynoso and Ms. Siprich and Ms. Jimenez talk about it as well, but those are just kind of my reflections upon, why the investments are really going to pay off in the future, especially at the high school level.
That's super helpful. And my last question, are we going to be able to see a breakdown as to when you look at Objective 2 and you see school-based enrichment opportunities in terms of like what those investments are, like what are the activities, how much money is invested? Are we receiving like a budget or something that outlines that?
So you'll see a budget for the arts program. But as I said, we're going to give actually a per pupil amount to each school so that kids at the Gilmet Middle School or at the Hennessy Early Childhood Center might have very, very different needs. And they should design those programs based on input from their parents, from their students, from their staff. And that's the intention, to let them get some localized plans. But the art program would be able to offer a very detailed vision for the art programming after school as well as summer.
What would be the per pupil investment after this $49 million injection?
In the budget right now is $150 per pupil.
$150. And how do we compare to other districts?
I have no idea. I'm not sure what they spend per pupil, or even if they do, frankly.
Yeah, our SOA, what we've received is sizable compared to other districts because, like Melissa said earlier, it's targeted towards multilingual students, students with disabilities, and low-income students, which is why we receive a much more sizable SOA contribution than other districts do. I think part of what we've been doing during our budget meetings and our budget follow-ups with our CFO, Ariel Perez, and Melissa have been meeting, along with the rest of the leadership team, we're looking at each position across the schools and saying, is this an SOA position? Is it not? We'll be able to say, at the Gilmet School, they have 5 SOA-funded positions, and one is a school social worker, another is an interventionist in mathematics, things like that. We'll probably be able to give you a breakdown by school of full-time equivalencies, which stand for a teaching position or a paraprofessional position, so you can see how students across the district are getting support. And we could probably do that for Title I and other things, too, so you could see where our Title I money is going as well.
That's helpful. And are we going to measure the fact that we're now spending $150 per pupil? What is that resulting in terms of outcomes, whether it's graduation rates, whether MCAT scores, whatever the measurement is?
We're required to do that as well. Dave, can you go to the second page of the appendix? So this is literally, out of the guidance, but we're required to adopt some 3-year target measures for student achievement, and we are choosing to adopt those that DESE sets as a default, which are basically accountability measures, which we are pretty used to. So MCAS, access, graduation, and attendance. We didn't want to create new, mainly because these funds are spread across everything we do. So it seems to make sense to adopt those default measures that we're very used to. Plus, we didn't need to focus on the ones we're used to, and we're trying to move instead of distract.
Thank you.
Maria, you had your hand up.
Thank you. Thank you for this information. In listening to the feedback, I am not surprised to see enrichment opportunities there as one of the top 3 needs or desires of all of those surveyed. I think a lot of it is, obviously, we know the benefits of enrichment in terms of, giving children or students, experience on what they're learning and, some context on the lessons they're learning in school, which is the best way to learn. But also there's a little bit of, a lot, I would say, reflected on our community's need for childcare or after school hours as well. where children can have like adult interactions, childcare in general. I see this long-term as a good opportunity for the district to partner and maybe verbalize it here somewhere, partner with outside organizations, outside of the one I'm part of. We have the YMCAs, the YWCA, YDO, we have the Boys and Girls Club, we have LCW here serving our students after hours, after school hours, and they all provide enrichment opportunities that could be sustainable in our community because, again, all those organizations are they get their own grants, they get their own funds, and they also have assessments that they have to comply with because of those funds that they receive. So I feel like this is a good opportunity to bring in a group of those organizations to talk about how can we serve these students better? How can we share our knowledge with the schools, and how can the schools share some of the curriculum knowledge or with us as organizations so we can make sure that we give experiences that are relevant and that really in the end benefit the students. So I do think this is a good opportunity that it's also long-term sustainable.
Yeah. I appreciate that, and that crossed our minds. We didn't want to jump or be high on the ladder of inference to guess at what our parents or our staff or our students were saying. We imagined that maybe there was, my kids went to after-school care, right? So that's a thing, and they went through their school. And so we know there's probably some more work to do to hear more deeply what people meant by that, and instead of guessing at it. And so I think there's some opportunity there to hold some more focus groups and do some more in-depth learning from and hearing of those voices as we continue to build this out. But because this was due, we wanted to start somewhere, which was part of the reason to put some of those dollars, as we say locally, or at that school level. And we had seen some people do, for instance, Spark had done that as a pilot. I think they started 2 years ago with that. One of you asked what other districts do. I can't say that, but I can say a very nicely run pilot here, that would be comparable money to what they might replicate in other schools. So that's our starting point, but I agree. I think we need to learn more before I agree in 100% on that partnership, curricular, all these other pieces, but really want to hear what the parents and the students and the educators are saying before we kind of build that out further. But I see an opportunity for that for sure, and our community saying it. So thank you.
Melissa,
Denise wants to add to
I'm
that.
sorry, I have one question, if I could ask you. I'm looking at the FTEs from phase one. There are 130 FTEs.
Yep.
Now, just for clarification, are their salaries going to be paid with phase two in addition to the other FTEs that you have in the plan?
Correct.
Okay, so at the end of phase two, it's up to the district to absorb those FTEs? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but
Yeah. Honestly, I don't
130
see the
plus.
end to SOA. That's sort of a policy and governance question. I don't see the end to SOA. I don't know how they can give this kind of money and build this sort of systemic EBP programming. But yes, you're right. At that point, we'd have a cliff like many districts have an ESSER cliff right now. We don't. We can move a lot of things over to SOA. Here we had our first session. Now we have another cycle and we got more money. So it's all based on need. I don't know. That would be difficult if that happened. I don't know if anybody wants to round that answer out, but I don't have that crystal ball.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
I think Glenny's had something she wanted to add.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Glenise.
I just wanted to amplify the importance of that community partnership piece. So although we are still trying to figure out what other arms that it will have, part of my Department of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, we hear being one of the assets that we have as a community is the many community partners that we have, and that we don't have to do it alone. So it's also under my radar to figure that out, like how would that look like, but that our community partners and agencies are critical to the work that we want to do with students. So it's also part, as in partnership with the Family Resource Center, is to really leverage, our community is rich in many ways. How do we leverage that in service of students and families?
All All right, Arlene or Dolores, do you have any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay, moving on. I'd like to have a motion to approve the Student Opportunity Act submission.
I have a question. What are we approving?
Second?
I have a question. What are we approving?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, Pat.
You have another question?
Yeah, what are we approving? Are we approving the,
The submission to the Department of Ed.
so strategic objective, 18 million, 22 million, 9 million investments?
That's
Correct.
correct. Yep.
Motion to approve? Could I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes?
Mayor Brian De Peña,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Dave just notified me that Sylvia is on, so we're going to ask the representatives from Alma to join us this evening. Hi, Sylvia. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Pat. It's good to see you. And good evening, members of the Lawrence Alliance for Education, Superintendent Rodriguez, and members of the Lawrence community. I'm pleased to be here with you tonight to give you an update on the superintendent search process. Maria, do I have the ability to share screen? I think I do. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Great.
Yes.
Great. Well, tonight I just want to give you all a brief update on where we are with the superintendent search process, and give you a preview of what is coming in the next few weeks. And as always, we begin our discussions with you and with the superintendent search subcommittee with our shared goal and purpose. And I'd love to have a member of the LAE read our shared purpose and goal. Dr. Dolores?
Yes. Our goal is to recruit, screen, and select the next collaborative, inclusive, outcomes-driven superintendent of the Lawrence Public Schools. Our purpose is to lead a transparent superintendent search process, engaging as many people as possible, guided by input of the Lawrence staff, students, families, partners, leaders, and community, and designed to mitigate bias every step of the way.
Thank you so much. So as we shared when we did our community input report out, this is our updated timeline, and we are on track. Here we are in mid-March, and we're in the midst of recruiting and screening candidates for the role. We have begun interviewing as well as continued sourcing for this position. I'll share a little bit more about that. And we anticipate in the latter part of March, early April, we'll be moving into the next rounds of the selection process. And our goal is to have the final round interviews at the end of April so that we are on track to extend an offer by the early May timeframe. Just to share a little bit about what we've accomplished so far, with the search subcommittee members, we have, since our last time together, really scoped out the selection process and the steps of the screening process. The ALMA team is currently beginning first round interviews with candidates, and we are preparing to do our anti-bias training. We again anticipate through March to April, we will be recommending candidates for the next stage of the interview process. And again, on track to have our finalist interviews by the end of April, and then by early April or late April, early May, you all will be having your final interview round with finalist candidates. So high level, what we've accomplished, very similar. We've reported back to the community what we heard in our community engagement work, our site visit, surveys, focus groups, and interviews, and use that information to create the job profile and post the position. And again, we are now in the midst of that continued sourcing and first round interviews, and we are on track to begin thinking about who will participate in interview panels in the final round, and we'll continue again with our screening process. We have been really, really thrilled with the amount of interest in the role of superintendent for Lawrence Public Schools. Since we launched the position nearly 4 weeks ago, we've had over 1,200 views of the posting in the various places that we've published this job description. We posted in over 30, probably nearly 40 different job sites so that we can cast a wide net and attract as many people as possible to this role. As of this morning, we've received 38 applications for the position, and what you see here in terms of the demographics of the applicant pool, we have a EEOC survey that's part of the application process that is completely optional. So of the 38 applications, 28 people completed the demographic survey. So of those 28, we know that 15 candidates identified as male, 13 candidates identified as female, and 9 identified as white or Caucasian, 8 identified as African American, 10 identified as Latinx or Hispanic, and 1 person indicated more than one race or multiracial. So again, we're really, really excited by the diversity of the candidate pool and the interest in this position. We will know more about the demographics as we begin to have those first round and second round interviews, as people share more about their personal journey, their why they're interested in Lawrence Public Schools. So we'll have a little bit more to share about demographics in our next report out. So what we have determined with the subcommittee is that there will be 3 rounds to the selection process. So in the first round, which is conducted by ALMA, we do the first round interviews. We're really looking for to assess their work experience, their alignment with the key competencies for the role, and we're really beginning to build a candidate profile to share with you, particularly when we recommend candidates to move to the next round. In round 2, the committee has decided that there will be a round 2 interview committee. The round 2 interviews will be conducted by the members of the subcommittee, as well as 4 invited stakeholders. And in those that next round of interviews, the round 2 interview committee is going to go even deeper. So they're going to be continuing to assess on those core competencies for the role, using a combination of behavioral and scenario-based interview questions, and we will be looking again a little bit at fit and alignment with the mission vision for Lawrence Public Schools. We intend to record those round 2 interviews so that the committee members can view them after the interviews have been completed. From there, we anticipate that the round 2 interview committee will identify 3 finalists who will meet in person with the LAE and interview panels that are comprised of staff members, students, parents, and community members and elected officials. We also anticipate that that round will have, we'll continue to dive deeper into candidates' work experience and track record of success, digging into those competencies at a deeper level through a longer interview day. And again, focusing on those behavioral and scenario-based questions that really elicit candidates' demonstrated ability to do this job. At this point, the ALMA team will also be conducting background checks and reference calls to share that information with the LAE in their final decision making. You see that we identified a target number of candidates that will meet, that will make it through each stage. I am, again, excited about the pool thus far. I'm wondering if we're going to have more than 6 to 8 candidates to recommend to round 2, but I'll know more as we continue to meet candidates. The round 2 interview committee will be comprised of 7 people. As I mentioned, it'll be the 3 people who are working closely with the ALMA team in the search subcommittee, Pat Mariano, of course, Juana Matias, and Maria Moeller. And then we've also invited Jonathan Guzman, Edward Reynoso, Johanna Mata, and Mindy Richardson to be a part of the round 2 interview committee. Again, going back to our shared purpose and goal, we want to be as inclusive as possible and transparent. And so we thought it would be great to include some additional stakeholders at round 2. Now, as we're talking about the finalist interview round, so after the round 2 interview committee meets with those candidates and recommends 3 finalists, we're also planning to have a broader group of stakeholders participate in an interview panel. And so we're going to have 5 interview panels, which will be conducted or selected through a nomination process. So we'll have an interview panel of teachers and licensed staff, an interview panel of school and district administrators, an interview panel made up of support staff, an interview panel of parents and students, and then an interview panel of elected officials, business leaders, and community partners. We hope that we'll be able to live stream the parent and student interviews so that the broader community will be able to watch those interviews. We find that the students are absolutely fabulous. They know what they want in their education, as we heard in the original, in our original site visit, and we want them to have a voice in the selection process as well, and have the opportunity to ask candidates questions for themselves. The nomination process to participate on the interview panel will be coming soon. That's something that we are going to hopefully launch in another week or 2. And then we are also going to invite the community to submit questions that they want candidates to ask, and we'll work with the interview panels to select their questions for their interview. So what's coming next and how you can help? Obviously, we want to continue to cast a wide net for this position. So we want your help in sharing the job description with your network. So continue to spread the word so that we make sure that we attract as many qualified candidates for this position as possible. As I mentioned, there will be a nomination process to invite people to be a part of an interview panel. So there will be details coming out on that process in the next week or two. So we want you to invite someone or nominate someone to be a part of it. And then lastly, we are holding April 30th and May 1st as the days of the finalist interview round. So definitely the members of the Lawrence Alliance for Education will be a part of those 2 days in welcoming and meeting candidates, but of course, conducting the final round interviews in person. So we'll be back in touch with more asks for those days to make it a great experience for candidates, as well as to ensure that you have everything you need to go into that final interview, feeling good about the candidates that have been advanced and that you're prepared to ask questions of each. With that, I will pause for any questions that you have about where we are right now in the search process.
Questions from the board? Thank you, Sylvia. Maria, no? Warner? Arlene?
Dr. Dolores, I see your hand up.
Yes. Do we have a sense of where are these candidates are coming from?
Yeah, so we have a diverse pool right now. I will say there's a combination of people that are from Massachusetts or working in Massachusetts now, as well as people from outside of Massachusetts. If I had to estimate, I would say at least 25% of the current pool have a connection to Massachusetts, if not currently working in Massachusetts. If that's what you were asking.
Anyone else?
I was trying to get a sense of interest from people who are more in the area that would be more familiar, right? With more intrinsic knowledge.
Yeah. So I would say right now, again, I think there are people who are in and around the Massachusetts area. And I think that's in order to protect the confidentiality of candidates. I think that's all I'll say now until we're at a place where we can recommend and we've had a chance to talk to and interview all of the candidates in round one. But we feel good about the connections to Massachusetts, the knowledge and the connection to this community. Right now, we're really, really, again, just thrilled by the level of interest in the position.
Okay, thank you.
Arlene, did you have a question?
No, I did not.
Okay. Sylvia, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for your report, and we look forward to the next phase of our search.
All right. Thank you so much, and have a good evening, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you. Just a commercial for the board. Monday is our training. Just a reminder, from 4 to 6, and Sylvia will send out the link. And then on Thursday, the 21st, the second round subcommittee, interview committee will be trained from 6 to 8. So thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Moving on, Superintendent, your district updates.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to go a little bit out of order because we do have some staff members who've been waiting patiently who are going to present on the district strategic literacy plan. So I think we're going to have them come up right now, and then I can give the district update and then just some updates on my goals after that.
Okay.
So I'd like to welcome Jen Burns, Dan Costello, Amy Cracciolo, Carolyn Ford, Rhiannon Tinker, and Cheryl Travers to come on up. And I think Dave has the correct slide deck teed up, just so that they can walk us through our district strategic literacy plan, And also embedded in the presentation is also some student data as well. And again, I thank these staff members for coming and presenting tonight after they've been at work and teaching all day. So again, we appreciate your presence and thank you for your patience.
As you see the educators come down, there's 20, this is a 25-person district literacy team that's been in place for a couple years now, and they represent teachers from all, across all the schools, special education teachers, multilingual learner teachers, coaches, principals, etc. So it's really powerful, kind of that representation that we have. Also all grade levels. We have high school representation on the team, middle school, as well as early childhood and elementary. So very broad team. As the team comes in to present, I also want to recognize Cara. Where are you? Cara Delatara is our liaison to Hill for Literacy, which is our main partner in this work. They have been fantastic and a terrific partner all along the way in building this plan and kind of mobilizing it, operationalizing it in the schools. So I just want to thank you, Cara, to you and your team for helping us really start to materialize this vision that you're going to hear about. So this is Cara.
Good evening, Superintendent Rodriguez, Chairperson Mariano, and members of the board. My name is Cheryl Travers. I am the early childhood expert educator for the district and have presented to you before, so nice to see you all again. I'm going to go over the timeline around the literacy plan and training. In 2022, the strategic literacy plan, which is linked in your deck, was developed by the Strategic Literacy Task Force. That was a group of stakeholders that included teachers, administrators, principals, assistant principals, and central office staff. And that team was formed right around the COVID pandemic. So I knew that they were meeting virtually, and that team determined that there was a need for professional development for staff on explicit, systematic literacy instruction on how kids learn to read that is based on the science of reading. That led us to partner with the Hill for Literacy and to provide our staff with professional development, and they also helped with the creation and facilitation of what is now the district literacy leadership team. My colleagues beside me. And you met Cara, she's here from Hill, so we thank her for coming. In school year 22-23, rollout began with offering the science of reading professional development for grades pre-K to 2. The majority of those people that received the professional development also received implementation coaching, which you'll hear more about from my colleagues further in the presentation. We offered that professional development science of reading also this past summer for grades pre-K to 2. And this year, in school year 23-24, the course opened up to include grades pre-K through 5. So we continue to offer pre-K to 2, and then we looped in grades 3, 4, and 5. So we expanded that science of reading to include those grades. We also, in addition to the module training, the professional development, that includes implementation coaching that teachers receive at the school level. There's also coaching meetings for the school-based coaches. And again, this year we're offering pre-K through 5, the summer course as well. So if they weren't able to take it during the school year, we're offering that summer course as well. And then planning for next year, we're opening up adolescent literacy professional development to roll that out to grades 6 to 8. So for the next school year, we will offer professional development in terms of literacy for grades pre-K through 8. Thank you.
Good evening, not good morning. Good evening, I'm Jennifer Burns. I'm a second grade teacher at the Frost Elementary School. I'm going to talk about the project as an overview. The project has 5 portions: leadership, tiered instruction, professional learning, assessment, and family engagement. In terms of the leadership, this leadership team includes district administration as well as the district literacy team, and our goal is to support the implementation of the multi-tiered assessment and instructional frameworks with the support and in conjunction with Hill for Literacy. That then goes to the tiered instruction. The tiered instruction is the goal of that is to use core, supplemental, and intervention literacy curricula in a model that provides whole group and differentiated Tier 1 instruction at whole and small group at each grade level. Staff responsible for this Tier 1 instruction are provided with support through coaching and implementation meetings, as well as direct coaching and support if it is needed for them. Moving on to the professional learning, the Science of Reading series, which is now the primary and intermediate level and will be expanding to the adolescent level, is provided to regular education teachers, special education teachers, multilingual teachers, and reading staff at the elementary level to ensure they have the essential components of literacy and evidence-based instructional practices. Embedded within this is a system of coaching that allows for continued support to enhance teacher instruction in all tiers of learning. In terms of assessment analysis processes are being created to measure student performance and to inform decisions at the district, school, classroom, and individual student need level. The data analysis allows for determining instructional focuses for students and creating instructional groups based on that focus within a grade level. Finally, we have the family engagement portion of this. A family engagement model is being created to support student academic growth at both home and school through workshops and/or literacy nights. And these workshops, and as well as resources provided, can be at the district or school level.
Good evening. My name is Kaylin Ford. I'm the instructional coach over at the LFA. So last year I was a K teacher, and this year I'm actually on the outside, so I have the coach's view going in. So we started with learning the science of reading through the course that was offered, and in my school right now, we have teachers that are taking it, we have teachers that have already taken it, so they're kind of on two different levels. And the course is basically broken up into modules, and, sorry, I'm very handsy, so. They're broken up into modules, and then we have monthly coaching meetings with Kara and our colleagues to talk about these different strategies and routines that are embedded inside the modules. After we have our monthly coaching meetings, we have new coaching meetings and all coaches meetings, so there's two separate. We're kind of really tag teaming this. New coaching, which would be me and a few others, kind of meet on one day, and then the next day we meet as a district early childhood level. And we then meet with our grade level teams, and we have implementation meetings inside our school. So I would pull my K teachers with me. A SOAR representative would come. Megan is our coach. She's great. And we would discuss with the teachers what the routine is, what the strategy is, and plan for those. So then when they go to implement it inside their classrooms, they feel more confident and comfortable implementing these routines in small group. And then there's also direct coaching support. So after we have our implementation meetings, Megan and myself, or the Hill coach and whoever the coach is in the building, will go into the classrooms and do direct one-on-one coaching with those teachers, and building confidence and giving them effective feedback, and so that they're able to take what was just said and kind of strengthen their instruction inside their classrooms. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Cracchiolo. I am an instructional coach at the SES. So basically, I'm just here to present to you guys with our turnaround plan. We've worked into 4 pillars that we're looking at: curriculum, pedagogy, database assessments, and intervention. So the first being curriculum. We're hoping that we can get high-quality literacy curriculum in all of our schools for all of our students. We're currently using Amplify and Wonders. And then moving into pedagogy, educators skillfully use evidence-based practices to promote active reading, writing, speaking, listening, and thinking for all students. So we have partnered with the Hill. We're doing tons of training. All of the teachers in the early childhood sector have been given the opportunity to take the training. And now this next upcoming school year, we're going to be rolling out the adolescent training for the upper grades. For data and assessment, all of the schools are required for K-3 to be doing the DIBELS with their students. And then we're also looking at map testing through NWEA to assess reading. And then for intervention, we are working to provide intervention blocks in all of the schools so that teachers have the time to use the skills that we're learning in those PDs and through the coaching and being able to implement those for our students. We're using progress monitoring through M-class interventions, and then there are data-wise trained staff who are looking at the data and then coming up with plans to further the students in their education.
Hello, I am Rhiannon Tinker from Arlington Elementary School. I'm a first grade classroom teacher. So I'm going to be talking about the merging into the data portion of it and how things are going. So currently we have 75.86 staff members that are trained either in their first session last year or are currently enrolled in Science of Reading this year. So across the 16 K-5 schools, that's the percentage that we're seeing, but the following data that we're going to present is showing that many teachers that are also impacting or directly working with DIBELS scores and DIBELS interventions. So a list of great educators, tons of different skills have been working with students across like the whole district, classroom teachers to ML teachers, reading interventionists, specialists. A lot of teachers have been diving in helping our students. So all of these great educators have impacts on their student growth through classroom lessons, interventions, and services. For the students, what this might look like day to day is engaging in their regular curriculums such as CKLA or Wonders, and then teachers from there get the data from DIBELS and our interventions and tools from SOR to be able to create groups for progress monitoring and assessments and activities. For my classroom in our grade level in Arlington is after the DIBELS scores come in, we assess all of the students at once, and then we look at who needs the most tiered support, and we create groups upon that, and teachers have specialized instruction to be able to target those needs. And if we further need more tools, SOR is able to come in and help us support with new ways to help kids in other areas. So on the next slide, we'll be able to see the percentage of growth here that students were making with the help of teachers and our support that we're given.
My name is Dan Costello. I'm a first-year educator in Lawrence, and I'm the literacy coach at Partha Middle School. And it's been great not only working with this team, getting a peek in the future that the adolescent literacy work is going to continue into the middle levels and help benefit Lawrence students. If you could go back to the previous slide, please. This shows the DIBELS assessment, which was administered to all students in Lawrence between K and 3. And we have the beginning of the year BOY achievement that shows that 31% of students were at or above benchmark. So essentially 1/3 of students in Lawrence were achieving at grade level or above. And at middle of the year, MOY, that number rose to 37%. So it's clear that the investment and the time and the energy and the partnership with the Hill is paying off with results. Next slide, please. Now we're going to break down the data. That's the aggregate. This shows the growth from the beginning of the year in the red to the middle of the year in the blue for each grade level and for the different subgroups in Lawrence. And you can see some amazing results, especially in kindergarten, which very close to doubled the students who are at or above grade level. And achievement across the board. Clearly, in our special education students, we remain flat from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. But one thing about Dibbles is that the test is different. They're not getting the same test. At the beginning of the year, they get a test that's designed for students who are in the first month of school in their grade. And then in the middle of the year, it's designed for a student who's in the 5th or 6th month of school in their grade. And at the end of the year, they're going to get an even different test that has expectations for students who are at the end of their current grade. So that's the achievement portion. But the most exciting news is in the growth that students in Lawrence demonstrated at the elementary level. Yes, sir. So in the blue column, it doesn't say 67% of students are at or above grade level. This says that 67% of Lawrence students had average or better growth from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. And if you notice, next to the blue column says average or better, it's broken down by well above average, and average. And those three columns added up together give you the number in the blue column. So that's the growth that students have made from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. We still have students who are making below and well below average growth. And those students are identified, they're getting intervention, but the work continues, but these are very, very promising numbers for Lawrence.
When you mention growth,
Yes.
This is great to see this data and to see the growth that we're seeing.
I thought you'd like it.
Yeah, I'm a data person. Who do we compare our growth to? So when you say, 67% of K through 3 students have seen significant growth above average or better, is that to ourselves?
I'm going to hand it over to Jen.
When we're looking at growth using our data assessment systems, Dibbles, MAP, we are comparing our growth, our students at that grade level at that point in time, to students who have been normed across the country.
Okay.
So this is in comparison here. If you want to think of it this way, you're typically developing your average student in order to maintain what they have learned needs to show 50% growth. Anything above that is filling the gaps and above level. It's almost like a bell curve. So what this is showing is that our students are outperforming what they should be performing in their growth. Their growth is above average.
That's great, super helpful. And then one last question. You were mentioning the fact that you start with a test in the beginning, and then you give a different test midway.
So it's a different form.
Different form, but you could still...
It's the same test that you would do phonemic segmentation, oral reading fluency. It's the same test. It's a different form of the test.
And so we're seeing growth, an increase because of the interventions that are happening in the classroom.
Effective instruction by all teachers. Implementation of intervention in small group, tiered, so you have everybody's getting the tier 1 curriculums, that is everybody. Then you go to tier 2, and there might be intervention groups presented in smaller group. Then tier 3, you're getting direct instruction for students who need specific things that are identified in their educational plans.
And I think, the students who would get the interventions would be the students that Dan was referring to who are below average or well below average in growth.
Yes.
And again, everybody's getting the scientifically based instruction in their classes. And then on top of that, we identify students who need additional interventions because, again, we need to be making above average growth with all of our kids every year to eliminate those gaps, like she said. And if we don't continuously do that, which it looks like we're doing very well this year, but we need to continue that into the middle school grades, because there are even kids at the high school level who struggle to read as well. So I think that's the most exciting thing to me is the adolescent piece about it. Certainly would love to have it at the Arlington Middle School 15 years ago, but I think, continuous growth over multiple grade levels that's high growth is what's going to eventually eliminate those achievement gaps.
Superintendent, if I can interrupt you a minute. What the data tells me, that when the students start at K1, their foundation is very solid at that point, and if they're in the program through grade 3, the data should show a significant growth, whereas the children in grade 2 and 3 right now aren't showing that much, it's less because they haven't had the benefit of the program in the foundation. Am I understanding this correctly?
I think the slide that Dan was talking about was that 31% of our kids were at or above benchmark, and I think that's the equivalency for, being on grade level. So, if you go to the previous slide, Dave. One more, see if you can go backward.
That one, yeah.
One more, I think?
One more.
One more, I think. One more back. So just generally, K to 3 across the district, 31, so less than a third of our students are quote-unquote at grade level. In a couple months, we've moved that up to 37% because of the growth. And I think, again, the excitement for us is as more teachers participate, as we get higher than 78%, as we get closer to 90, 95%, closer to 100% of our early childhood and elementary school teachers trained and moving into the middle school, everybody is going to be using these common strategies, no matter if you're at the Tar Box or you're at the Partha Middle or if you're at the Oliver Middle. Everybody is going to be using similar scientifically based strategies, right, that are going to explicitly teach kids to read or improve upon their reading, so that everybody in the district is pushing in the same direction. If a kid switches school, if they went to the Tar Box and then they go to the 5th grade at the Arlington, perhaps, or maybe they end up at the LAE in a year and a half, they're all going to be getting similar type instruction, so it's not like they have to adapt to some type of new model of instruction as well. So I just see many, many benefits across the district. Of course, growth is great. We want to be much higher than 37%, right? We want all of our kids to be fully literate, and not just English, right? In Spanish as well. We talked about bilingual ed earlier, but we want to make sure that we keep making well above average growth so that over the years our kids eventually hit and exceed grade level.
Thank you.
I'm just going to wrap us up with some testimonials. Dave, if you could go a couple slides. Right there. Oh, back. Back one more. Right there. Oh, one more. There. On the screen, you'll see testimonials from coaches, admin, educators that are really advocating for the science of reading because it has impacted their school, whether they've seen improved data, improved performance, they see consistent routines across grade levels, across teams of teachers, and they're just happy to have the coaching. There is a whole slide deck of testimonials from various schools that you can look through and see incredible data. You can hear teacher voice, but I want to leave you with a student voice. I have a student in my class, his name is Steven, and at the beginning of the year he came in a little bit defeated and he really needed help to read one-syllable words containing 3 and 4 sounds. We worked. I implemented and embedded these routines based on science in my lessons, and I saw, not just for him, but progress for students. But what made me realize that he really was impacted was at a closing meeting one day. Kids give compliments to each other, and he said, I want to give a compliment to myself. I used to not be able to do it, but now I can read. I'm working hard. And he recognized that he's making gains. So I just think that's important to hear from the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, overall, that's what we want to see, right? We don't want students to hit their frustration level in class and act out or decide not to come to school. I remember, again, when I was 22 years old, being frustrated as a teacher because I didn't know how to teach my newcomers how to read, and after a couple years we did Wilson Phonics along with read alouds and everything else back then. You actually feel good about yourself when you're teaching too, because you can see the progress and you can see the joy in your kids' faces when they can actually comprehend text and participate. So we thank all of you for coming after a long, hard day's work, and we appreciate your efforts on behalf of your colleagues and the students in the Lawrence Public Schools. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question, Superintendent.
Hold on.
yes, go
Would
ahead.
the team remain for 1 second?
Oh, wait a second.
Juana, go ahead.
The 75% of teachers that are currently trained, is there a goal to get all teachers trained? Is there a way for paraprofessionals to be trained on this? What are the requirements around that, and what are our goals?
Yeah, those teachers are the teachers, there's probably more than 75% trained. Those teachers are the teachers that their delivery directly affects DIBELS. So there's coaches that may not have groups of kids that take DIBELS that are trained. Yes, we'd love to have all the teachers trained, so that's why we keep offering it year after year. Next year will be our third year offering it pre-K to, next year 8. So we keep offering it for those teachers that are interested. And
So it's optionals for teachers to take this training?
it depends on their operational plan. Some schools have it rolled in that it's mandatory and they take it, but we keep offering it for teachers that can take it like whenever they have a chance, like during the summer, or these are after school. So, yeah.
Okay.
And we have had paraprofessionals trained as well, and central office admin staff, principals. So that number would be higher, but the number that you're looking at is the direct impact on the DIBELS testing.
Okay, super helpful. Thank you so much for
You're
being
welcome.
here and staying late. Really appreciate
Guys.
it.
Thank you.
Great job, thank you, and thank you, Carla, also for staying. We appreciate that. Dave, I think we'll go to district update. We'll fly through the district update and then give some quick updates on our goals before we go into executive session. Pull that up on my laptop as well so I can see it. So again, thank you to the staff members who were able to present to us. We have our district update for the March 13th meeting. A good focus on Acceleration Academy. We have one of our students from 10th grade presenting her project-based learning that she did during the week of Acceleration Academy. We have a group of students over from the Oliver Elementary who did a unit on the Bread and Roses strike during their week of learning, and then also just a quick picture of Liana from the Partha Middle School, who was one of our recent artists of the week. You can go on to the next slide, please, Dave. So Acceleration Academy, Arlington Middle, Breen, Bruce, Frost Middle, Gilmet Elementary and Middle, Hennessy, Lawler, Lawrence Family Academy, the LAE, Oliver Elementary, Partha Middle, Rollins, School for Exceptional Studies, right here, SLE and Spark, Tarbox, the Leonard, Oliver Middle School, Weatherby, and the high school grade 10, all had Acceleration Academies last week. And students did a variety of literacy-based activities that included standards-based instruction and also fun learning. So we appreciate all the teachers and all the students who were able to come last week. We had, good overall attendance based on their rosters. We had 95% plus, and based on the number of students who were allotted, we had over 70% of the students who we had targeted attend. So we're very happy that the students and families were able to, make the commitment to participate in Acceleration Academy. And again, we thank the staff members who were able to instruct. We also had a recent college career and trade fair over at Lawrence High School. This was coordinated by our partners at Gear Up, who do a ton of work here at the South Lawrence East and at the high school. This event has been created to help our students, again, explore technical and career options. Students participating in the event have shared interest in these careers and would like to learn and explore about their future options. So students at the high school, kind of like what Ms. Matias was asking about earlier, career and tech ed, they want to know more about possible careers coming right out of the high school. Gear Up, along with folks at the high school, was able to organize this event. Students signed up using the QR code. Over 30 organizations, over 300 students participated. So again, we thank Gear Up and all the folks who came down to talk to our students about career and tech ed recently at the high school. And along with career and tech ed, also we want to make sure that our kids who want to go to college, 2- and 4-year colleges, have that option as well. At this point, guidance at Lawrence High School is reporting over 400 college acceptances. Students are going to continue to receive their acceptance letters over the next month. Right now, a little bit less than 40% have opted into a 4-year private university or college. 22% have opted for in-state public colleges or universities. A little bit less than 3% at public out-of-state colleges and universities, and 31% have been accepted to 2-year public schools. And then we just have a pie graph underneath, just with, so you can take a visual look at the data. Picture of our friend William Martinez from the cheer squad, who just was accepted to Iowa Western University. He's going to be part of their cheer squad over there, and he's going to be out in Iowa next year, studying and being a member of the cheer squad out there. And then just some other places that our students have been accepted to. And also, we've had 2 students who received the Questbridge Scholarship and 3 students who received the Posse Scholarship. Posse has always been great to our students here at Lawrence High School. So just an update on post-secondary options for our students as well. Exciting progress at both of our school building sites. At the Oliver site, this is a picture of what they're actually doing indoors at the Oliver site right now. The team over at the Oliver site is continuing to install framing and sheathing on the east side of the building. Concrete placements continue throughout the new addition and are on track to be completed this spring. Rough overhead mechanical plumbing and electrical equipment continues throughout the new addition at the Oliver, and in the existing part of the building, excavation has begun for the underground utilities, and backfilling of these areas has begun. And next week at the LAE site, the steel construction will finish, and we are going to do our second topping off ceremony of the year. So that's exciting. We're hoping for sunny weather over at the LAE next week. Abbott Lawrence reception last Friday night. ALA held their annual reception at Lawrence High School. We thank the mayor, Councilor LaPlante, Councilor Levy, school committee men Guzman and State Rep Reyes, who were able to attend. Took a nice picture on the main entrance stairwell with the new students who are going to be attending Abbott Lawrence next year. We had Omara, who is an Abbott Lawrence alum, come and give the keynote speech to the young students who will be joining ALA next year. A very celebratory night, and one of pride, where students are celebrating their achievements in middle school and the recognition of being accepted into Abbott Lawrence. So that was a great night, Friday night. Athletics continue in full force. We got a great picture there of Hillary, Daniela, and Caitlin, members of our wrestling squad. They were able to attend the New England Championships about a week and a half ago in Rhode Island. They've done great things as members of the wrestling squad. Our track team, the middle picture there, also had a shuttle hurdle relay team of Jeremy, KJ, Kevin, and Derek, who were able to participate at the national championships for New Balance recently. And boys basketball on the bottom, they won 2 playoff games. They beat Boston Latin and Central Catholic in a great game. Unfortunately, last Friday night, they came up a little bit short against Catholic Memorial at Babson College, but they had a great season, and we congratulate them as well. And that's all for our district update. And then I think, Dave, we can pull up the slide on just some updates on our action items, what we've been working on as part of the superintendent's goals. We have our 4 goals for the superintendent's office: to create a vision for instruction that drives achievement. We heard a lot from our district literacy leadership team about what we're doing with the science of reading. We've continued funding our acceleration academies with a vision for instruction during acceleration academies, focusing on students to make sure that they are targeted according to their MCAS scores, so we can help students reach meeting or exceeding expectations. School quality reviews continue in action. I was able to sit in on the Leonard debrief of their SQR today with a couple of folks from the School Empowerment Network. We gave a presentation tonight over our SOA, our Student Opportunities Act. So all of those are things that we have in action right now for goal number 1, creating a vision for instruction that drives achievement. As Dr. Spash mentioned earlier, I think moving forward, the district should continue to focus on mathematics, as mathematics achievement has lagged. We can certainly discuss that in the future. Goal number 2, on deepening efforts to recruit and retain culturally responsive folks who are highly effective teachers. We have hired an executive director for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We have hired an executive director for human capital. We are working with local institutions of higher education to develop programs to provide routes to licensure to fill district vacancies. And again, as you saw in the SOA presentation tonight, we are using a good amount of SOA funding to continue with that DESE goal of diversification of the educator workforce. And goal number 3, deepening and expanding ways in which the district engages with families and students. Again, we heard from Mr. Rondon during public participation that our parents and families are willing to support the district in any way that supports student achievement, and that's what we want to see. We want to continue to have parents be partners with us as we help students accelerate learning, make above average growth, and reach grade level expectations. So in goal number 3, we've expanded initiatives that build on school-based skills. We're engaging families in parent workshops to support special education and English learners. We've connected the two Boss Council with the superintendent search to make sure parents' voices are heard in the superintendent search process. We've continued to host our virtual coffee hour series, and we continue to support partnerships to increase family economic success, LWFI, parent-to-para program, many of these things that we train our parents to be able to get positions within the school district so that they can contribute to our kids' education, but also make a living wage. In goal number 4, maintaining effective lines of communication and collaboration with all community and city stakeholders. We continue to provide the LAE with communication so that they understand teaching and learning efforts and progress. We're maintaining regular communications with my colleague Pat to deepen relationships between the school department and the board. We're maintaining meetings with board members if necessary to deepen relationships, create feedback loops, and broaden perspectives. We meet regularly with elected officials at the city and state level and city departments as requested to make sure that we're collaborating and have good communication with those folks. And then also, members of the leadership team continue to maintain a regular presence at community events to make sure that we're accessible to the community whenever community members have inquiries about the school department or need information. So those are just some of the things that we've been doing as a leadership team. We'll certainly give a much more detailed and descriptive update, perhaps at the next meeting with specific action steps, but be glad to answer any questions on the superintendent's goals and any further action steps that you think might be necessary.
I just want to say this is amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to put this together. I know beyond this, you do so much to run our public schools, but to have it tied to the turnaround plan is great. And any other ways we can think to flesh this out with, the outputs you were mentioning is super helpful. So just thank you, kudos, really appreciate this.
Any more comments? Dolores? Arlene?
No comments.
Okay. All right, Maria, anything? All right, at this time, I'd like a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of collective bargaining with non-union personnel. We will not be reconvening in open session after the conclusion of the executive session. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second?
Seconded.
Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
and Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Motion passes. Our next regular LAE Board meeting will be held on April 10th. Thank you and good night.